Welcome back to my channel. In 1999, the United States Mint was riding a wave of transition. The century was ending, the new millennium fast approaching, and within the coin world, anticipation was mounting for the release of the 50-state quarters program that would debut the following year. But while all eyes were focused on the quarter, the Jefferson nickel quietly continued production, unchanged and largely unnoticed. It was business as usual, or so everyone thought. The Denver and Philadelphia mints struck millions of 5-cent pieces that year, each bearing the familiar image of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and Monticello on the reverse. No major design updates, no commemorative flourishes. Just the routine task of pressing the nation's nickels, with the expectation that each one would look identical to the last. But in that predictable process, a mistake slipped through. It wasn't loud or immediately obvious. It was subtle, tucked in the minute details only a trained eye would notice. And it would take a particularly curious collector to bring it to light. Miles Turner, a hobbyist from rural Pennsylvania, had been collecting Jefferson nickels since childhood. His father had passed down rolls of them, categorized by year and mint mark, stored carefully in cigar boxes, and labeled with decades-old handwriting. In early spring of 2021, while sorting through a forgotten roll from a flea market coin dealer, Miles stumbled on something that didn't sit right. It was a 1999 nickel from the Philadelphia Mint. At first glance, it seemed standard. Jefferson's portrait was intact, the strike sharp, the rim well-formed. But something about the word Liberty seemed off. He adjusted his magnifying loupe, tilted the coin under the desk lamp, and focused in. The letters showed slight separation, almost a ghosted outline. Not machine doubling. Something cleaner, more deliberate. And below the date, there was more. The final 9 in 1999 appeared to have a shadow twin tucked just behind it. Miles checked the reverse. Monticello looked normal, crisp, centered. But the steps at the base of the structure, usually well-defined in high-grade strikes, were barely visible. It was odd, given how strong the rest of the reverse appeared. He flipped it back to the obverse. The doubling was unmistakable. Uncertain, but intrigued, he compared the coin with others from 1999. None showed the same doubling. He consulted online databases. No major double die varieties had been reported for that year's nickels. Still, something about it made him hesitate. He sent images to a coin forum, then to an error specialist. Feedback poured in. Several users dismissed it as die deterioration. But one seasoned numismatist replied with a warning. "Send it in. You may be holding a discovery piece." Miles submitted the coin to a professional grading service, noting his suspicion of a double die on the obverse. Weeks passed. When the coin returned, it came with a label that confirmed his instincts, double die obverse. It was the first officially recognized example of its kind for the 1999 P. Jefferson nickel. The designation stunned the small but passionate Jefferson nickel collector base. Word spread quickly. Forums lit up with discussions. Error coin hunters began sifting through boxes of 1999 nickels at coin shows, hoping to find another. YouTube videos emerged dissecting the features of Miles' coin, pointing out the doubled Liberty, the shadows in the date, the weakening on the reverse steps. But no one could find a match with the same clarity. Either the doubling wasn't as sharp, or the coins had suffered wear from circulation. Then came a curious development. A separate collector from Ohio claimed to have found a 1999 P nickel with not just doubling, but also a clipped planchet, a crescent-shaped curve missing from the edge of the coin. When sent for grading, the coin was authenticated as both a clipped planchet error and having light doubling on the obverse text. Though not as clean as Miles' discovery piece, this dual-error specimen still captured attention and raised speculation. Had there been a faulty die pair in limited use that year? As the mystery deepened, the value of Miles' coin began to climb. At first, private offers trickled in, $500, then $200. But he refused to sell. After a National Numismatic Journal published an article on the newly discovered double die, interest spiked again. A collector of modern nickel errors from California reached out with a more serious offer. He had been searching for high-grade oddities to round out his 20th century error set. Negotiations lasted days. Ultimately, the coin crossed the block at a private auction facilitated by a top-tier numismatic house. Only a handful of attendees knew the coin's full backstory, and the room remained quiet as bids rose methodically. When the final hammer came down, the 1999 P double die Jefferson nickel sold for a stunning $69,000. A quiet year, an overlooked coin, a minuscule error, yet its impact was profound. In a year when few expected anything unusual, the Jefferson nickel proved that sometimes it's the coins not meant to be remarkable that carry the greatest surprises. The discovery not only elevated a single coin's value, but reinvigorated interest in modern nickel errors. And while thousands of 1999 nickels still lie unnoticed in drawers and bank boxes, one coin now stands apart, etched in history, valued at $69,000. In 2020, the world stood at a crossroads. While headlines swirled with uncertainty, a quiet rhythm continued within the walls of the U.S. Mint. Production lines buzzed, presses clapped in steady cadence, and coins emerged by the millions, each one a small symbol of normalcy in a year that offered so little of it. Among these coins, the Jefferson nickel carried on without ceremony, bearing the familiar profile that had graced the denomination since 1938. The 2025-cent coin was struck in both Philadelphia and Denver, as it had been for decades. Its design remained unchanged. Thomas Jefferson's forward-facing portrait on the obverse, Monticello on the reverse, his legacy cast in nickel and copper. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. But buried in the sea of uniformity, a single anomaly had already made its way into circulation, a mistake so subtle, so easily missed, that it would take an observant collector to unearth its significance. Jasmine Del Toro, a lifelong hobbyist from Santa Fe, had always appreciated the simple satisfaction of coin roll hunting. She'd spend weekends with gloves on and magnifier at hand, scanning hundreds of coins in search of a misplaced letter, a clipped edge, a double die. It was a habit inherited from her grandfather, whose old metal tackle box now held dozens of labeled flips and plastic tubes, each one storing minor discoveries from decades of patient searching. That spring, Jasmine purchased 2 boxes of nickels from a local credit union. Most coins were common, scratched, dulled by years of handling, the same dates repeating over and over. But one, a 2020 D nickel, caught her attention almost immediately. At first glance, it looked ordinary. Jefferson's face was sharply struck, his gaze forward, the rim smooth and fully formed. But something about the reverse drew her eye. Monticello, usually well-centered, appeared off. Slightly rotated. She turned the coin over again and noticed that when Jefferson's head faced upright, Monticello seemed to sit at a diagonal. She aligned the coin to a flat surface and rotated it along the vertical axis. The design didn't match front to back. The alignment was skewed. It was a misalignment, what collectors call a rotated die error. Carefully, she compared it to other 2020 D nickels. They all had standard coin alignment, where the reverse sits perfectly upside down when the obverse is turned vertically. But her coin showed a noticeable 45-degree rotation, rare in modern minting, especially for a year with tight quality control due to reduced staff during the pandemic. Curious, she reached out to an online community of collectors. Some dismissed it as slight mechanical shift. Others urged her to get it certified. She mailed it to a grading service known for verifying die alignment errors. Weeks later, the coin returned slabbed, labeled with a precise designation, 2020 D Jefferson nickel, 45 degrees rotated reverse die. What followed surprised even her. Word spread quickly through error coin forums. Images circulated. Videos analyzing the rotation appeared on YouTube. What made this example especially intriguing was its condition, nearly flawless, with full luster and a sharp strike, suggesting it had been pulled from circulation before suffering anywhere. More discoveries trickled in. A few collectors reported similar rotated die errors on 2020 nickels, but none matched the exact angle or pristine state of Jasmine's find. Most ranged from 5 to 15 degrees off. Her 45-degree example remained unmatched in accuracy, and iAppeal.as demand grew. So did offers. Initially, messages came through social media and forums. $400, then $750, then $1,000. One buyer offered to trade a complete state quarter silver proof set. Jasmine held off. This wasn't just about money. It was history, a tangible piece of minting imperfection captured in the middle of a chaotic year. A private collector specializing in modern mint anomalies contacted her next. He had a reputation for quietly acquiring coins with precise classification. The offer was deliberate and generous. After some negotiation and third-party authentication, the coin changed hands in a discreet transaction. Its final price $82,000. A Jefferson nickel, struck without fanfare during one of the most turbulent years in recent memory, now stood as one of the most valuable modern errors ever found. It served as a reminder that even in times of routine and repetition, the smallest of deviations, if caught, if understood, could change everything. Hidden among millions, a single 5-cent piece revealed its secret and changed the course of one collector's journey forever. In 1995, the United States Mint operated with the same quiet precision it had for decades. The Jefferson nickel, by then a long-standing presence in American pockets, continued its familiar production run. The obverse bore the enduring image of Thomas Jefferson, gazing left with quiet resolve, and the reverse carried the stately image of Monticello. It was a coin everyone recognized and rarely thought twice about. But within this unassuming year, buried under countless nickels struck for commerce, a peculiar mistake would lie dormant, unnoticed, uncelebrated, and waiting. The Denver Mint had handled a substantial portion of the nickel output that year, and like clockwork, the machines did their job. Presses fired thousands of coins per minute, die pairs rotated in and out, and inspection staff, seasoned but overburdened, worked tirelessly to keep the flow steady. What no one caught, however, was a subtle but consequential error, one die that had been slightly misaligned, just enough to matter, but not enough to be caught immediately. Miles Corwin, a quiet and meticulous collector from Spokane, had never been one for flashy coins. He preferred the calm and consistency of Jefferson nickels. Their long history, subtle design variations, and occasional errors were enough to keep him searching roll after roll. It was a rainy Thursday when he picked up a fresh set of nickels from his neighborhood bank, a habit he kept since retirement. As he sorted through the coins under his desk lamp, he paused at a 1995 D nickel. There was something odd about Jefferson's image. Not in the design itself, but in its position. The portrait was slightly shifted to the right, causing the left rim to be unusually thick, while the right rim appeared thinner than usual. He flipped the coin and saw that Monticello mirrored the same odd displacement. He placed it beside other 1995 D nickels, then under a magnifier. His suspicion deepened. The coin was off-center, but not in the obvious dramatic way. This was a centered strike with a subtly misaligned die. Specifically, the obverse die had shifted just enough to throw off the design's placement. Most collectors would have missed it, chalking it up to normal strike variance. But Miles had seen enough nickels to know this was different. He reached out to a friend at a coin club who had seen something similar with earlier nickels. After further examination, they concluded that the coin was the result of a misaligned die strike, sometimes called a mad error. On Jefferson nickels, such errors were uncommon, and on coins from the mid-90s even more so due to improved minting controls during that era. Encouraged, Miles sent the coin for professional grading. The response was swift and definitive. The coin was authenticated as a rare misaligned die error from the Denver Mint, with full mint luster and an unusually clean surface. Its grade? Mint state 65.at first. Its value was speculative. Error collectors began to circulate images, debating the severity of the alignment and its impact on the coin's desirability. Some argued it was a minor anomaly. Others saw the appeal in the unusual shift, especially because the date and mint mark remained fully legible and untouched. The more it was discussed, the more attention it received. A coin dealer from Florida made an offer of $2,500. Miles was tempted but declined. The next month, a listing for a similar error nickel, albeit in lower grade, sold for over $3,100. Offers began to rise. The story of a 1995 D nickel with an unusually clean and noticeable misalignment began to ripple across collector groups and coin shows. But the twist came when an advanced numismatist published a report highlighting the rarity of mid-90s matte errors on 5-cent pieces. The study pointed out that the vast majority of errors in that decade occurred on cents and dimes, due to the heavy output volume and aging machinery. The Jefferson nickel had comparatively fewer known misaligned die strikes from that time period, especially in high grade. Suddenly, the coin's scarcity wasn't just about appearance, it had statistical backing. Interest surged again. Inquiries came from error coin specialists, private collectors, even a museum curator curating a modern U.S. Mint anomaly exhibit. The offers shifted from thousands to tens of thousands. Miles, by then well aware of what he had, decided to sell, but not quietly. He worked with a respected auction house, one known for handling rare modern U.S. Mint errors with discretion and expertise. The auction drew a small but serious group of bidders. As the final moments closed and the hammer fell, the coin's fate was sealed. The 1995 D Jefferson nickel with a rare misaligned die error sold for $76000. A coin that had traveled quietly through the years, likely passed through countless hands before landing in a collector's roll, had transformed from overlooked to legendary. What began as a small, nearly invisible deviation on a coin billions ignored had become a symbol of patience, precision, and the extraordinary value hidden within the ordinary.